This is John Messina, Athletic Director, St. Lucie West Centennial High School, and home of our TV show, Hey Coach. With us today is a very special guest, our Superintendent, Wayne Gent. Welcome, Wayne.
Thanks.
Okay, and welcome back to St. Lucie County. I've been waiting to say that for a long time.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what your role is and how you feel about high school athletics. And first of all, what's your background in athletics?
Well, I played sports in high school and played basketball, and was fortunate enough to be on a state championship team. And when I began teaching, I coached everything. I coached football, basketball, and baseball. And then when I came here to St. Lucie County, I started at Fort Pierce Central and was the head boys basketball coach. And I continue to coach in community things. So I've been doing it all my life.
Okay.
Been involved in athletics.
And you were down at William T. Dwyer, and they were a powerhouse down there.
Right. We had good sports programs as well.
Absolutely. As an athletic administrator, what do you think your most memorable moment was?
One that really sticks out, it came to mind, was when Fort Pierce Central's girls won the state championship. I think it was like in 85, 86, right around there. I was at the game and went up there with the team, and I remember there was somebody took a picture of us right when the bench, and I was sitting behind the bench. I wasn't coaching. I was ready to coach. If it was Coach Seitel at the time.
Yes.
Yes. But I just remember that picture and how the girls felt when they won the state championship, when the buzzer went off.
And that's something you'll never forget. I was fortunate when I was down at Miami Pace, and we won a few state titles down there. And I had Alex Fernandez, who pitched for the White Sox. And we went up to see him the next year, and it was kind of ironic. He was rooming with Bo Jackson at that time, so I was kind of honored to see him. And all of a sudden, before the game, he's watching this video on the old VHS tapes. I said, "What are you watching?" He says, "Coach, I'm watching my high school state championship game." And he's sitting in the White Sox, locker room doing that. And those are memories you never, ever forget,
Yeah, one of the players was Sophia Witherspoon.
Right.
And I believe she's over at Central now.
She's the head coach, doing a great job at Fort Pierce Central.
She was on that team.
During our coaches in service over at Fort Pierce Westwood, you told a great story. I wonder if you can tell everybody on the air now about that story.
Okay, this was the Halfback Pass.
This was the Halfback Pass.
Well, wherever I've been as principal with the football team or any of the coaches, I try to go out and talk to them and give them positive reinforcement and do a lot of joking around. And everywhere I've been, I've always talked about, you just need to make sure you got the Halfback Pass in your pocket, just because, it works for Michigan. It works, every now and then you see somebody throw it out there. And so I told the coach there that, you ought to do the Halfback Pass and put it in. But I was just really joking. Well, he put the play in, and he was in the. I think it was either the district championships or whoever won the game was going to be the district champion, and it was down at Martin County. This would have probably been between 93 and 96, and so it was the last play. They were down. They were down, losing. They needed a touchdown to win, and they were probably on their own 40, 30-yard line, and it was 4th down in the last play, and he runs the Halfback Pass, and the young man that made the catch. It was just one of those. There were defenders all around him. It was just like one of those miracle catches. And they interviewed him afterwards, and he said, he kind of froze in that moment. All he could think about was the Halfback Pass. So he won the game. He won the game.
When you told that story at Westwood, there had to be 400 people there.
Yeah.
Now, 40 of us from Centennial, those are two words you never mentioned, is halfback option. And the reason is, 2001. We were 10-0 or 11-0. We're playing in the regional finals against Merritt Island. Great game. They had just built South County Stadium. Mm-hmm. The place is packed. There's only seats on one side, so everybody's bringing chairs in. Back and forth, back and forth. We finally tie them. We go into overtime. We hold them to a field goal. Now, my wheels are spinning. I'm sitting. Next week, we're going to go to the regional semifinals. We're going to play Booker T. Washington. We got a great kicker, but they hadn't stopped us running all year. So we're in the Kansas tiebreaker, ball's on the 10. Well, my coach, who I love him to death, decides to call a halfback option on the first play. They intercept it, and 5,000 people go home very quietly on first down.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So we never mentioned that word halfback.
Yeah, I didn't draw it up for him. I have a special one.
I figured yours would work, but that was the old days. I remember that game at South County. I mean, just unbelievable. And sometimes, you remember losses more than wins. And it's not like the defeat, but just, boy, what a great game. I mean, that was the greatest game ever at Centennial High School in the 18 years that I've been there. And it was a loss, but we played our hearts out. And I was so proud of our kids that day. Talking about student athletes, what do you think? What's your vision of a student athlete? What would you say a student athlete, in your opinion, should be?
I think it's the definitions in the word itself, that you're a student first and you're an athlete second. Even though a lot of young men and young women get into sports because they're good at it, or they get into it because they see it as a pathway to move on, maybe possibly to college with some kind of a scholarship or a grant or some kind of aid. But in order to do that, I used to use this thing, Dan Marino, one of the greatest passers of all time, and I used to tell the kids, like Marino, you got to pass to play, and you got to be able to pass your classes, you got to take your classes serious. And I think that's really evolved over the years, that the coaches do a really good job of monitoring that. I know that some schools have coaches that are tutors, and they don't really coach on the sideline during the game. They just do the tutoring during the school day and those kinds of things. So it's really important, and it builds some discipline in the kids. And it's just not a free ride. You've got to, you're not pros. You're not getting paid for this. You've got to maintain certain criteria in the classroom in order to participate. And I think it's also, I see it as also a way to keep kids actively involved in something positive after school and on the weekend, a sense of pride for them, a sense of pride for their schools.
All right, my good friend Charlie Kumo used to say, athletics, high school athletics is the best dropout prevention, absolute best dropout prevention. But I try to tell parents, unless you're a super athlete, and I coached for over 25 years, I maybe had 3 or 4. You better have the grades.
Exactly.
You're not going, especially now. You remember when we first started. Remember the passing GPA for eligibility was 1.5, and all you had to do was pass 5 classes. Now it's a lot harder. Now when you want to go to college, it's your core classes that people don't look at. I mean, we were fortunate a few years ago. We had a real good top recruit, Jannard Boswick. And we had, Notre Dame in there one day, and Michigan State in there the other day, and Nick Saban came down another day. First thing they come up to me, Coach, we see film. Tell me, is he a good kid? Does he have grades? Tell me about his home life. They said that's what they want to know. You don't have to sell them on film. I remember about 6, 7 years ago, we won the State Sportsmanship Award, and we had to go up to a nice banquet up in Gainesville, and Billy Donovan talked. So somebody said something, let me talk to, what do you do about parents, Coach Donovan? He says, no, we don't talk to parents, okay, on a college level. And he says, when parents ask us, how are kids recruited, we have players, we have coaches that will go find these kids, but they gotta have the grades. And that's something I think, it's, as an athletic director, as a coach, as an athletic administrator, you have to sell that to the parents. I mean, I think sometimes they're so caught up with, I'm going to play in this league, I'm going to play on this travel ball team. You don't have the grades, you're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
You're going to be playing 7-11 on Sundays. That, softball. That's what's going to happen. So, as a coach, what do you think your vision of a high school coach is?
Well, I think whether it's a high school coach or middle school or anything, the vision is, number one, that they're there because they want to be there and they want to help. I'm sure they're highly competitive. I'm highly competitive. I still coach youth league and wake up in the middle of the night thinking about Saturday's game, and take it serious. But that they're there for the students, the student athlete. They're there for the kids first, and that they're there to try to help them and help them be successful. And like you say, not all are going to go to college, but that they have some kind of successful experience, whether they're a starter or whether they're part of the team. And I commend our coaches because I know they don't do it for the salary or the pay. They do it for the love of the game, and they do it for the love of the kids. And that's what we really want, even in teachers. They're there to help. They're there to support. They're there to build the kids up. Each kid on that team is an individual, and you got to treat. You have to handle them differently, just like you do as a teacher in the classroom. And so the really vision is that I'm glad they're doing what they're doing, and we need them. We can't afford to lose them, because a lot of the lessons that are taught to the kids in high school are going to be the lessons on that athletic field, just like you talked about, that you're going to remember, for the rest of your life. The positive moments. I can still remember when we won the state championship, the shot going in, and that was like in 1972. I can remember where the guy was and the shot he took, and even in coaching, I can remember some of the memorable moments. But it's really about the students and how they view it, and how And I've run into a lot of former students and some kids that played for me as well, and it's really neat on the different things that they remember, about the school year or about the team that year and what they did, and it's just they just play a great role in the kids' lives.
And I bet you they don't call you Mr. Gent. I bet you they call you Coach.
They call me Coach,
right?
And when I hear the Coach word, I knew it was from Fort Pierce Central, and they'll say, "Can I call you Coach?" And it's like, call me anything. You can call me what I'd rather be called a positive name, because I think that as a sense of pride, and hopefully offered something to those kids that they'll remember later on in life.
And then I think, I try to emphasize, all the years I've been doing being an athletic director, I don't want to coach as a manager. Anybody can be a manager. I want a teacher. I want somebody that's going to instruct. I want somebody that's going to instruct whether you're 10-0 or 0-10. And that first day of practice is going to be like your last day of practice. I saw a great show, you'd love it, on HBO about John Wooden. And it was talking about the UCLA dynasties. And Bill Walton was talking, and they come in the first day, and he lines all these guys up. Now, he's got 10 All-Americans. Fellas, I want you to sit down. I want you to take your sneakers off. I want you to put your socks on.
He showed them how to put their socks on.
I want to put your sneakers on time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, Sidney Wicks, another All-American, said, "Coach, I got to ask you. We won the state championship, the national championship, third year in a row. Why did you do this to us?" He said, "Sidney, did you have any blisters this year?"
Yeah.
And it's a teaching moment. And Bill Walton would say, the first day of practice, the drills that we did is the same drills we did before the national championship game. And that's what we want to get our kids, our coaches to do. Everybody thinks, they got to be this manager. And sometimes I know I get upset when you hear all these statistics in baseball and football. It's not like that in high school. You got to teach. You got to give them the fundamentals. You're not going to get to the top of the stairs unless you take that first step. And a lot of times I think, and I know I had this argument with the FHSAA. I think I semi-won. I didn't think I completely won. But, they hit us, well, you got to tell your coaches this rule, and 9.3.2, and this eligibility. I said, wait a minute. Why don't we have seminars on how to teach our coaches how to coach? Who's teaching them how to coach? You have many seminars on how you have your teachers teach, right? All the different teaching skills. Do we do that about a coach? I got a resume. I was a Little League All-Star coach. Well, wait a minute. You might have had an All-Star team. Did you coach? What are the skills? I would love to put on clinics and have coaches who've been there for years. You take somebody like Roger, you take somebody like John Piccarini, who've been here years. Go to the younger coaches and say, hey, we're going to teach you guys, this is how we do. What happens when you have a 3-game losing streak? What happens when your star player is in a rut? Okay? How do you get ready for the playoffs? We never teach that, but we know Rule 9.3.6. And I think that's something that the FHSA has been missing for the last few years and stuff like that.
Well, you asked about the vision, too. They're building lifelong lessons that are, whether you're on a winning streak or a losing streak, and, your heart goes out to teams that lose or teams that, like win or 1 or 2 games in a football program or volleyball or whatever the sport may be, but there's still valuable lessons that kids are being taught, which we need to do more of, which is the hard work and the effort, and it'll pay off. It may not pay off that season, but it may pay off 20 years down the road. And, I think that's important. And then with the coaches, I wish somebody would have told me this when I was younger. The kids are different today, and you'll watch the pros and, whatever the sport is, and you'll watch how they work. But, you criticize in practice and you coach in games, and you never try to embarrass a kid, and, you work with them, and that doesn't mean you don't talk to them in private, you don't work with them, but in games you got to coach them up, and in practice you coach them and criticize, but it's constructive to help them, to help them be more, to be successful in whatever they're doing.
Right, that was my next question. You read into it. How has athletics changed over the years? And I think it has changed. You can't talk to athletes the way we did 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whenever I started. It's a lot different now. You look at these college coaches that are very, very successful. They go to the pros. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, the way they talk to people. You have to adapt. And I don't know if you treat everybody the same. I had a great quote last night. Don't treat athletes the same. Treat them all fair. Because some people need a little more hug. Some people need a little more discipline. As long as you're treating everybody fair, that's more important than treating everybody the same. But it has evolved. And another thing that really, really has come into athletics, and it's all the way down to high school athletics, is social media now.
Right.
And what's your viewpoint on that? I know you deal with that in a lot of other ways in the county.
Well, it's a great way to accentuate the positive because it's here to stay. It's not going to go away.
Okay.
It's not going to go away. Unfortunately, sometimes, I try to focus on the benefits of social media and not so much about the negative side of it because, humans are going to do what they're going to do, but there's a lot of positive benefits to that. And, when used correctly and like the kids are going to utilize that, they're going to utilize the Twitter, everything that's out there. They're always a step ahead of us anyway, technologically it seems sometimes. But I really, when it's used correctly and the right way and doesn't bully people or hurt folks, I think it's a great tool for to promote, to showcase, to brand a school or brand a particular program. What they're all about. I think it's a great vehicle, and the kids see themselves. It's a YouTube generation, and I know they like to watch. Just like the bloopers are on TV, and that's the high-rated show. It's been on. It seems like forever, but there's the other side where you're showing the successes, and we always see those stories as well, where kids are excelling at something.
We emphasize the negative too much, I think, with the social media, and Twitter is like you and me talking Saturday morning after the Friday football game at breakfast, but now the whole area or the whole state knows what Wayne and John are talking about. It's just the same thing. It's just publicizing your views. And sometimes the problem with Twitter is once you press that button, you can't bring it back.
Yeah.
There's no retraction back. Sometimes we don't think first. And I think that happens a lot of times with email. I think that happens a lot of times on Facebook. I know the colleges, and I have talked to some of the college recruiters, they will monitor your Facebook accounts. They want to see, what are you putting on Twitter? What are you putting on Facebook? What are you posting anything on YouTube? They want to know what you're doing. And again, it's a great way, which kind of ties into my next question, is how do we communicate to parents about what we need, what high school athletics is about? I mean, everybody was a coach. When I was down in Miami, and I think you noticed, everybody was a baseball coach. They were an all-star in Cuba, and most of the time they were, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But how do we really get to the parents and say, this is what our coach is trying to do? I know you from many, many years, and I know how I feel for many, many years. Winning is not that most important. We are competitive. But sometimes you get these parents and they don't understand what you're doing. They don't understand you don't have an all-star coach. Well, our coach, 99% of the time, got to be teachers in the school first, So how do we get that out to parents? How do we?
Well, I think that you have almost like a mission of whatever your individual team is, and you lay the rules down for to the parents that this is what we stand for. I think it's when I coach, and I've been coaching youth league for many years, and they're volunteers. I'm volunteering, and the other coaches are volunteering. In the years that I'm not coaching, I won't let anybody criticize the coach. I'll say something to them because they're volunteering their time and they're doing the best that they can, and it's not a paid position. In high school, you get paid a supplement, and you have some. The parents will have some good information, but it's the coach's team. It's his team or her team, and they have guidelines, they have rules, they have their values or what they're going to stand for, and it's kind of like the classroom teacher. I think it's important to develop a good rapport with the parents. I think it's important to hear from the parents, and if a parent's got a complaint or a concern. Some of them are legitimate, and some of them are because they want to see they want their kid to be successful above the efforts of the team. I know you run into that a lot. I think sometimes the parents' intentions are good, but sometimes there's unintended consequences on some of the things that they would want. And that's the tough part of it, because you're out there to motivate and build young men and young women, to be successful in life. And like you say, it's not always about the winning and losing. It's more about the journey to get there and the competition and the lessons that are being learned from that. But I think the coach has to lay the law down very quickly that this is our program, this is what we stand for, and we're here to support the kids, and you build relationships. you build the relationships with the kids, and you build the relationships, like you talked about before. You have to treat different kids differently.
Yeah.
Somebody you can get in their face maybe and motivate them, and we're all different. And some folks need to be talked to in a very quiet manner, and it's the same with adults. You have to work. You have to learn what they're all about and how to. But you shouldn't have to spend your time worrying about the parents. The parents are there. They want to come support the programs. We have some great parents.
Absolutely.
I watch them at the games. I see them there bringing in the food, bringing in the drinks, being out in front, and you call them, and they're there to do whatever and take kids home and make sure they're fed. And that's really what it's all about. It should be seen as a support mechanism. If you have an issue with the coach, you need to talk to him in private with nobody around.
Right.
Maybe you can work something out, but it should never be done in public, never to embarrass anybody, and utilize the parents for good, to be supportive of the team, and like I said, I've seen a lot of that in the county since I've been back and at the games and the different events, and so those are the ones you want to work with.
Yeah, we have some super parents, and I think one of the basic rules is always be open. If they come to you and ask, what can my son or daughter do to be better, then you have a responsibility to work with that parent. If they come in and say about playing time, or they come in and criticize somebody else, that's when you got to kind of quietly say, yeah, that's not the way we operate here. But again, it's like you said, there's so many super parents out there and so many ways to utilize them. One of the very, very big issues going on now, not just in high school athletics, is safety issues. I think there's been 10 or 11 football deaths this year. Poor young man up in Sebastian last year passed away. Very young man with heat exhaustion up there. I know we have gone to many seminars on concussions. We do have a concussion protocol. We're very fortunate that I know Centennial and a few of the other schools have a doctor that, for example, I had a girl that had a concussion at our soccer game the other night. We immediately got her into a doctor, and when she returns to play, she has a return to play protocol. The one thing that I think we really, really need help on is the sudden cardiac arrest, and this is where a lot of young athletes are passing away. Cheryl Liu, who is the founder of the Jessica Clinton Foundation, has done this heart screening over the years. And it's absolutely wonderful. She just had it in November. It was absolutely packed. And next year we're going to try to coordinate it when we do our football physicals in June. We're going to see if she can do our heart screening in conjunction with that. The FHSAA for years has been pushing, or has been pushed, let me put it this way, been pushed by the state legislature about having EKGs, but they are so expensive. But I mean, what are some of the ways that you think that we can go on the safety issue a little bit more?
Well, I think that we have to, I think when you think of concussion and protocols, you can look at the pros, and you can, it doesn't matter who the athlete is, if it's the quarterback, if it's Tom Brady, if he gets hit in the head, and he's going to go through the protocols and may not be playing the next game. And I think that, we have to err on the side of caution and what's in the kid's best interest. We have to be vigilant. We have to be alert. We have to train our coaches to know what to look for. Like you said, there's been a lot of events, some related to sports, some related where it happened on the sports field, but it was something that was a genetic issue within the body that it could have occurred anywhere. And I think we have to draw a distinction between them. But that we put all the precautions. Safety is number one, just like in the schools. My number one priority is to keep our schools to be safe places, and that's the same thing in sports and athletics. And that we keep on top of the latest trend data. We keep and that we monitor our students. And I'm aware of the program that you just mentioned, and had a chance to see the mom speak a couple of weeks ago about some of the programs. And folks like that are in the community, and she gets doctors to come up, that are in specialized area that you won't find in St. Lucie and in Martin. She's got to go all the way down to Dade and Broward, and they'll volunteer their time to come up here and do these clinics. And programs like that, and then work with our local physicians and local hospitals and places to make sure that whatever comes out, that we're on top of it and we're reading the latest, and that our coaches are constantly monitoring. There's nothing more important than the safety and welfare of the kids.
Right, and I don't know if you know that all our coaches have to go through a concussion test now. They have to pass a concussion test. They have to watch a video on sudden cardiac arrest. Our students have to do the same thing. At first, they weren't taking it seriously. I mean, the kids were coming in Oh, I signed, I watched the video. Well, no, where's your completion form?
Exactly.
And we would send
Yeah.
it back. And then I would ask them questions on it. They would say, you know something, we're learning something. And, the days of being a tough guy and I got hit in the head and I got my bell rung, that's gone.
Right.
That's absolutely positively gone now. Because now getting your bell rung is something very, very serious. Years ago, when I started playing, getting your bell rung, go back in there. No more. And you see these boxers, you see these football players, and it's a very, very scary incident. So what we have to do, and I know as athletic directors, I know with the FHSA, we got to try to catch up. We got to try to catch up to, we don't know all the answers. They don't know all the answers on the concussions. The seminar that Jill and Dan and myself went to over in Venice on the West Coast this year, doctor got up and he said to us, I know you guys are concerned about concussions. I'm more concerned about sudden cardiac arrest and what we're going to do on that. So that's why that program that, Mrs. Lulu and the Jessica Clinton Foundation is so important. And we really, really want to try to coordinate that and support her. Our last question, as we're running out of time here, going real quick, FHSAA, and I know being the superintendent of Palm Beach County, you dealt with them many times. It's constantly changing, okay? They are getting pressured from the state legislature to open up their transfer rules. One of the rules that was proposed, not by the FHSA, but by state legislatures, is that you can attend one school, go to that school during the day, and then choose another school to play your athletics in. How do you feel about those things?
Well, if I was still coaching, I might have a different viewpoint. I think that the only way I understand where they're coming, from, and some of it's based upon legislation from bad experiences that one or two legislators may have had. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about, that you create powerhouses. That it's almost like the grading system that we have right now. That's an unfair grading system, and you can do it in sports where you can create these powerhouses, of which we do have that right now in some schools, in private schools, and other programs, and kids can go there. And I just think it's something that parents have to closely monitor, and if they're opposed to the legislation, they have to let their legislators know about it. They have to, they have to use the process, the democratic process of my representative, and why I would be opposed to this or that. I haven't followed it as closely as probably I should, because my focus has really been on the academic side of, and running school districts. But I do know that I don't know enough about it, except that where kids can be eligible to play at any program. One of the things that one of the things I'm not opposed to is if during the season a kid moves into another zone, that they don't have to sit out, that they can play immediately, if they've met all the criteria and it's legitimate, and address verification and those things. But I'm nervous about just wholesale transferring from one school to the other. But I know I do believe in school choice for parents. I believe that they should have that opportunity to send their child to the school that they think is best going to meet their needs. And then with that then comes athletics and sports and extracurricular activities. But if we develop our schools that it's a school that my community, where there's a sense of pride and we have success, the competition will be there, the competitiveness will be there. It's kind of like capitalism. It's the lifeblood of American democracy, and I'm not opposed to competing as long as the rules, are the same, and it's a fair level playing field, and we can compete for the student athletes. But it's concerning that the direction I think it's going to go in, and it would be up to registered voters and parents to voice their displeasure or their pleasure, whichever side of the fence they sit on that.
And it's going to start.
I know it's been brewing for a few years, and I know it's coming back this year.
January is going to be a big one.
Exactly.
So fun. But listen, our time has gone so fast. All right. I want to thank you so much. Thank you for coming back to St. Lucie County. It's an absolute pleasure working for you.
All right,
thank
great.
you very much. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. And that's another edition of Hey Coach. We'll see you next month.